Hello, welcome to the training webinar. I'm Dale Franks, and we continue with our unified approvals process. Today, we're finally going to see some of the magic happen. But before we get there, we need to do a little recap because if you remember from our last session, I had some work that I needed to do to complete the process timeline that we were working on live. So let's take a look and do a little recap of last week and the changes that I had to make. So this is the process timeline that we were looking at last week that I was configuring. As you can see, I have finished that configuration now. And so I now have tasks inside or activities inside each of the different sections. If you remember last week, I had the sections themselves and I threw in a couple of activities, but I really needed to go back in and clean them up. I've also prettified it a little bit. I've color coded each of the different activity types for accounting or IT or facilities or HR. So they're all nicely color coded. Up here in the accounting area, we're going to have to do some fancy footwork to make this work properly. And I have to tell you, I forgot about this finance director approval activity, which is going to be key. And I'm not entirely sure. I didn't put it in until about a couple of minutes ago, actually. It occurred to me that I needed this activity. I was going to put it in live, but I figured I might as well just go ahead and create the activity so you don't have to sit here and watch me create it and throw in all the results and color code the buttons and all the other silly stuff that I do to prettify things. But we are going to have to come back and look at this, and this is going to require some special handling. So we're going to come back to this finance director approval activity in a little bit. I have a problem that I need to solve. And frankly, having created this, I'm not entirely sure how to solve it. So we may get to look at a little troubleshooting today to see how we're going to make this work. It's going to be a little complex, perhaps, but we'll come back to that. But in any event, I've created the process timeline. So I have sub activities. All of the activities have task instructions and task names and what have you. So we're good to go with our process timeline. The other thing I needed to do, because I better save this so I don't lose anything. The other thing I needed to do, because all I had for the email template, if you'll remember from 2 weeks ago, I created it just so that we could have the email template object, but I didn't configure it at all. So it needed some configuration. Now, it's going to need a lot more configuration. It's going to need a lot more work. However, I did throw in the absolute bare minimum that you need for an email template. So we have a working email template that we can look at, which reminds me, I better be sure that I have Outlook turned on so that I get the email messages as they go out. The week before last, of course, we created all the background information that we needed, all of our data that runs our process, our functions, and the individual process types that we might need to run. So that is all done. And I believe for the form template, let's take a look at that. I did not set up the instantiated form name. So we are going to need to do that today. But we are at the point now where we have our form template. It is largely at this point configured the way that we want it configured. So we're good there. We now have our email template. We're good there. We have our process. We're good there. At this point, we can begin testing to be sure that our template works with our process as it is currently configured. Once we do that and we do a little testing, then we'll be able to go through and now use this template to begin building the actual forms that users will submit. So far, all we're doing is building our basic template. This is going to be the basic building block that we're going to use for all of the forms that we're going to need to create. We're not going to create a whole bunch of forms, but we are going to have to do some special stuff so that we can see how I can use multiple versions of this form all to get approvals done in the same process timeline, and thus unified approvals, the entire point of this long series. Now, I don't think that we're going to get through today, so we will probably have to hold over some of our items until next week, but I think we can do our initial testing and get some of our initial forms up and running today. One of the things that I do need to do, and one of the reasons why I'm here, is because I forgot what I called this field. It is Rec No, because I'm lazy and I wanted a simple name, I guess. And I've got submitter. Great, we've got that. So now I have everything that I need to create my form template and to complete it by giving it the appropriate instantiated form name. So we're going to call it request. And then I'm going to throw in the system variable for the request number. So that will be our request number, which, if you'll remember from last week, we configured to give us different request numbers for different types of processes that we're going to be submitting requests for. So it'll be request number from submitter on, and I believe I called the field submit date, although I'm not entirely sure, and I am sure that I didn't put my colon there. That should be submit date. We're going to go ahead and update our form template. This will give us our unique request number so that we can find individual requests, tell us who submitted it and when it was submitted. Now, I'm pretty sure that submit date is the name, but I would be wrong because the name is submission date. So we are going to have to go back and make that final change. Submission date. And that should give us an instantiated form name. And we'll go ahead and update and close this. While we're doing that, let's also look at the email template, because I configured this offline, but let's take a look at this configuration. Like I said, it's a very basic email template. So I basically just have the running activity name that will get pasted in there. I've got the task instructions for the activity that we will see for our instructions. And I've got the email URL configured for the hot link control so that we can click on the link and open our task. And here in the subject, I have task assignment, activity running name. And you know what? I should probably add some more here for, and we'll just add our request number here so that we know what request we are getting our activity from. And because of the way I configured the request number, and since that was 2 weeks ago, maybe we should go back and take a look at that. But the way that I configured the request number and how it will get generated is it's going to give me a different code in the request number for each different type of submission process that I want to invoke. So if you'll remember from previous, I better hit save here. So I saved that. If you'll remember from 2 weeks ago, when I created my process timeline initially, I had that set request number set on it. And each of my different processes has a unique 2-letter code. You might have some other different system. I just kind of like the 2 or 3-letter code system because it gives you enough variance in terms of the number of options available to you to create unique codes for each process. And I had hoped that it would have saved by now so that we could go ahead and look at it. But we have several different types of processes in our system. Each one has its own code. And for each one of those, I have a separate and unique sequence number that will start over annually. So, for example, there we go, finally. So, for example, the request number for, and I just hit save and close, but that's okay. It had just saved it and I didn't make any changes. So we're good. So if we go back and look at our functions, we'll just take a look at the system variable here. No, we don't want functions. We want our processes. Now I have different processes for each function. So, for example, if we go with accounting, which the function code for that, because functions also have their own code. So if we throw in the accounting function code, it will return these 5 processes, each of which have their own uh, process code. And in fact, we had to use this to create a business rule fairly early on to determine who the process manager is for all of these different types of processes. So I've got them all listed in this business rule as well, so that it assigns a different person to each process. Now, I did assign different people than me to a couple of these, but since we're going to be testing today, I'm going to go ahead and redo all of this, at least these 3 users. I'm going to be sure that it assigns everything to me, because I might inadvertently pick one of these processes. And if I do so, it will assign it to Barb and Diana. And we don't need to have me constantly impersonating people just to test our system. So I'm once again going to assign everything to me. Now, in the real world, when you were setting this up, obviously it would be different people for each of these process management tasks. Each one of these different people would manage a separate process. Now, it could be the same person that manages multiple processes. In fact, you might not even have a process manager in the sense that I've created it at all. But let's get this set up so that it assigns everything to me, no matter what the process is, so that we can go through our testing. At this point, we are all set up for our testing. Now, just to review one more time really quickly, our process timeline itself has no form for timeline associated with it, because I don't know what form is going to invoke this timeline. So when the timeline is invoked by a form, the form will automatically attach itself to the timeline as a timeline reference. So in the context of that timeline, I will have access to all of the form fields and everything via system variable, because remember, because I am going to be using multiple forms and I don't know what form is going to kick this off, any sort of form references I do are going to have to be done through business value. Indeed, our business rule here, that get PM by process, which pulls the process manager for each process, that all works off system variables too. And indeed, to pull that value back, I have to call this business rule via system variable, pass a parameter to it, and then get back the desired value. That parameter, since it is the process, there's a form field for the process. I'm going to need to use the system variable for that form field to provide the appropriate parameter for that business rule to return the value that I need. So we're using business rules everywhere. We have to, because we don't actually have a form for this timeline. I do have an email template for this timeline, and I can use the same email template to send multiple messages. And we are later on, maybe not today, but at some point later on, we're going to have to get into the business of configuring that email template properly and getting it set up to transmit the multiple types of messages that we're going to need. We'll worry about that at a future time. So my timeline is not attached to anything. The only thing that has a reference to an outside object really is the form itself, because I am going to use the same process to associate with the form so that anytime that I need to have a form or a process-based condition, I at least know what my process is. So that's going to make my life a little easier on this end, and it is on the form itself going to reduce the necessity for using system variables to do all the things, because at least I am hooked up to the unified approval process on the form side, even though I'm not hooked up at all on the process side. And finally, on the process, while we're talking about it, let's go ahead and review this set request number. As always, it is just a set form data custom task. It does not have a data source form. Fortunately, I do have request number on there. So every form that gets attached here is going to have this request number form control. And I am just going to set it by using the process, which is going to be whatever the process is, like a vendor payment is VP, I believe. And so it'll be VP dash 000X, whatever the number is. It's always going to be a 4-digit number. And because I'm using the current year as part of the category for this sequence number that I am calling, this 4-digit number will just be restarted for each process for every year. So obviously, process VP 2025 is a different category than process VP 2026. So my sequence number will reset every year into a new 4-digit number, and we'll begin numbering with 0001 every year. So we're happy, I think. All we need to do now is begin testing this. We're going to test it using the form template. Now, in the real world, we are never going to call this form template. We are never going to submit it. The template is there as the basis for creating all of the different request forms that we might need. And with different request forms, we're going to have to configure them differently. So once we complete our testing, then we'll get into making some custom forms based off of this template. Now, because I am in this subfolder of my webinar folder, so let's take a look. Here's the webinar folder, and I have these subfolders, and my template is in this templates subfolder. My process in the process subfolder. So they are sister folders or sibling folders, I think is the preferred term. So I have these two sibling folders. I have a forms folder, which again is another sibling folder, into which I am going to import a copy of my template. And because it is a sibling folder of process, when I import, I'm going to export this template to a PDZ. I'm going to re-import it into forms. Obviously, I'm going to rename it, make some other changes. And when I do, it will automatically know that it is hooked up to the unified approval process because of the specific way that I've structured this to ensure that the process is in a sister folder. So whenever you do an import in Process Director, because I can't really import the links directly to objects via the GUID, because GUIDs don't export and import from system to system. The way the import works is I look for the object name, Unified Approval Process, and then I look for its relative location in the folder structure. So it's going to, based on where the original was, it's going to jump up one folder level into the webinar folder in this case, and then it's going to drop down into the process folder and find this unified approval process. So by testing the template here, I only have to test one form, and I only have to make changes in one place. I could technically at this point export the form template, re-import a copy of it into forms and test there. But if anything is wrong, I'm going to have to go back to my form template, make the change, export it, re-import it. Let's not do the export and re-import stuff. Let's just run the template now and ensure that our process works. I'm going to just do some real simple testing on this. First thing we're going to do is test to see if our process actually works the way that we want it to work. So I'm going to run the form. I've got these required fields that I need to fill out on the form. And so we're now running it. Well, I'm not running it for the first time, but for the purposes of our discussion today, we'll assume this is the very first time I'm running it. So let's just run an IT task here. And the process will be a network change. Okay. And my supervisor is this Dale Franks guy. So I'm going to pick that as my supervisor. Now, when I picked the process, it invoked the business rule. It passed it the value of the process field, network change, which I believe the code for network change is in C, and it sent that to the business rule. The business rule returned the user again, because I have to do everything via system variable, especially since I'm passing a parameter. As we saw last week, I just used the system variable for the business rule, but I used the format equals UID formatter so that when the business rule returned me, in this case, it actually just returned my UID. This is a user picker control. It happens to be disabled, and I have show disabled fields as text. So when it returns the value, it returns the value in the UID format, which is my unique UID, my object ID on this system. And that is what sets the value of a user picker. It wants the user's UID. So I pull back that UID, I apply it to that user picker, and it automatically resets that user picker as me. I've got my details tab here. I don't really have any details other than this sort of narrative box here that I'll just throw some random text into. Then I have my approvers tab. Now, this tab enables me to choose ad hoc approvers for my process. So I've got all of the standard approvers set up in my process timeline, but I do have an ad hoc approvers activity that enables me as the submitter to add my own set of approvers who, just prior to the process manager reviewing everything to be sure everything is correct, these ad hoc approvers get a chance to weigh in and approve or deny or ask me to resubmit my request. By default, there are no ad hoc approvers. I have to add them on an ad hoc basis, hence their name. So I am just going to add a couple here. I'll add two, and I will definitely make myself one of them. And I'll make Diana another one of them. So I've got some ad hoc approvers. And then I have my routing, but there's nothing that shows in the routing tab because there is no routing slip. That doesn't exist until I submit the form. So for right now, I've got all of the basic information that I need for a request. I have the function. From the function, I've selected a process, in this case, network change. When I select network change, it sets the process manager. I have to specify who my supervisor is. But again, if you have a system where your supervisors are configured for all of your users inside each of the users' profiles, I would not need to manually fill this out. I really don't even need the field. I've thrown it on the form because it's nice to have these things as form fields so that I can always grab them by the form field system variable. So if I did have it on the form, it would probably be a hidden field. But technically, since I have to draw this data out via system variable anyway, I mean, I have to return whoever the current user is, and then I have to use the show manager equals 1 modifier, and then format equals UID, and it would return the UID of the supervisor. I don't technically need a form field for that. I could assign via that same system variable in the process timeline itself. But it is nice to have it's nice to have that information in the form rather than to worry about recreating it by system variable, especially when we get to the knowledge view section and I want to return a knowledge view. And if I want to return the knowledge view for whoever the submitter was, I would then have to construct the system variable for that. So I would use the submitter form field as the system variable, use show manager equal 1. And in that case, I wouldn't need to format it because process director will just return the name of the supervisor in that case. And that would show up in the knowledge view and we'd be fine with that. But it's easier if I'm building the knowledge view just to pick the form field. And if the supervisor form field exists, then I'm a happy camper and it works. In fact, there is a section on the form. Let's go back and review that real quick. I'm going to pull this approval form off real quick of the screen, and we'll go back and look at the design of our approval form. And right down here at the bottom, I have this hidden section that is called status fields. So any fields that I need to have hidden that I don't want on the form, like let's say I was automatically pulling the supervisor's name back because I have that stored as part of the user profile and process director, I could just take this field and drop it here in this hidden section. So it would exist and it would have a value. Nobody would ever see it except a form designer who was coming in and looking at the form's design and then sees the status fields at the bottom. So this status fields exists to be able to remove fields that I'm using up here and to add any additional status fields I might need for a specific process. And we are, in fact, going to move some of these fields a bit later down here into this status field section. But for right now, I think we're fine on the form. And I'm going to get out of that form, by the way, before I make any changes that I don't want to make. And we're going to go ahead and submit our form. So once our form submits, obviously it's going to invoke our process. And because everything is assigned to me, it's going to start assigning to me. So I have supervisor approval. That is the first activity that runs for all of the processes. I have my task instructions. Please approve this request from Dale Franks. I think that I might, in many circumstances, change my task instructions. This Dale Franks is actually the form submit user system variable. So it's actually just returning the form submit user for this form, which obviously is me. And that's how it's filling out the task instructions. So I'm using these system variables not pretty much everywhere in the timeline, including the task instructions. I might want to go in and throw the request number into the task instructions as well, because the request number does exist. I mean, it is NT001. So for my network change, which is not NC, it's NT apparently. NT001 is my request number. This is obviously the very first one that I've submitted this year. So I know that that is working the way that I expected it to work. And remember, on the original form, we didn't see the request number because I stole an idea from some of you. In fact, I think I stole it from Dan Kruger at in the UW system, who apparently at UW Stout, they hide the request number until the form has been submitted. That's a much better solution than what I was using. So I stole their solution. So I have my request number. Looks like I also have an extra space in here. So that's one of the nice things about testing. I can find these little things that are wrong. But so far, we're good to go. Now, in the real world, I would have all of these fields disabled because I don't want to have people go in and edit them later. I didn't set that up in the form template. And I wouldn't set that up until after I was done with my testing, because I might want to do different things to play around with this during my testing to see what happens. But for now, we're happy. We have our details. We have our approvers, and now we have an actual routing slip. There's really no reason for us to look at these other fields there because we're not going to change them. So at this point, we're just going to stay on the routing slip. So let's go through the process and be sure that it works. By the way, I did receive my email notification. There it is. I've been assigned a task. The task is supervisor approval. Here are my instructions from the task instructions. And then I have my link for opening it for task completion, and my email template is actually showing me exactly what I want to see on the subject of the email. Task assignment, supervisor approval for NT-0001. So I'm very happy with how that works so far. Let's go through the process and see if I can approve first. Then we'll worry about resubmissions. Then we'll do denials. So in general, the testing that I'm doing here on this form template is essentially no different than the testing you should be doing when you develop any form. And if you have multiple options like this, you should at least run through and test those options. Now, obviously, for our purposes on a live webinar, I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time testing, but I am going to at least test to see that my options work, that I can approve a task, that at some point, if I ask for a resubmission, it will happen. And if I deny a task, I'm just going to jump out of the approval loop completely. Once I've got those tested, then we can actually begin making some other forms and customizing them for different types of requests. So for now, let's do approval. So supervisor approval, great. Let's approve it again. And this takes me into IT approval. This is, in fact, an IT request. So I should not see any activities from HR or facilities or accounting. I should only see the proper activities that I want to run during my IT approval. So great, I'm in my IT approval. IT must request or must approve this request. So that's great. We'll approve it again. And now I'm in IS approval, so information services. Now, this request is a network change. So technically, the IT approval activity should not have run. This is not an IT function. It's not information technology. It's information services. It's network stuff. So I don't need new equipment or a new computer or any other sort of peripheral. All I need is a change to the network, to my network identity. Perhaps, I've gotten married, and so my spouse and I have decided to hyphenate our last names, and I want that shown up here in the in the network with my new hyphenated last name. Okay, great. We can do that, but I didn't really need IT approval. I needed to set up some conditions to do something different. Now, this is IT approval. I actually have some special sauce already built into accounting. We'll take a look at that when I build an accounting form or two based off of this template. But right now, we just want to be sure that it works. Now, normally, if you were at this stage of testing, what you would want to do is make an IT request, approve all the way through, be sure it approves. Then you'd want to make an accounting request and go through that whole approval process and facilities and HR and so forth so that you ensured that all of the activities ran the way that you were supposed to run. So I would, at bare minimum, need to run this form 5 times and do the same thing each of the 5 times. I am not going to force you to sit there and watch me submit and approve this form 5 times for 5 different things. We'll worry about that a little bit later. But we do need to get through this. So we'll hit approve again. Now I am in ad hoc approvals for Dale Franks and Diana Stewart. Now, happily, because I'm in ad hoc and the way that it's set up by default, whenever you create a user activity and you have multiple users, the activity is completed when the first user completes the activity. So I didn't have to do any special configuration there. I can just hit approve. Diana will be marked as not required. And by the way, I want you to notice resolved by another user. This used to say not required. The way that the enum worked is we actually had 2 types of not required. One type of not required for an activity is, well, I didn't need it because a a needed when condition existed or a completed when condition, went ahead and completed the activity. That is not required. Or I assigned multiple users, um, and only one of them was required to complete. Well, that showed up as not required for all of the other users. It no longer does that. Because even though technically this is not required as a task for Diana Stewart, not required gets a little tricky, especially whenever we were building conditions, because there were two not required and they were not required for different reasons. So we've renamed one of them from not required to resolved by another user. So that's the result that we'll see whenever we have multiple users assigned to a task, and either you have it, assigned task to first user to accept, or in this case, where the activity is by default set to complete after the first user completes, we'll now see this resolved by another user. I don't know whether that was a bug or whether it was just sort of bad planning on our part, because from a developer's point of view, they're both not required. It's just two different reasons for being not required. From a user point of view, however, rather than a developer point of view, that was super confusing. So not required and resolved by another user have distinct meanings now. And so this is no longer not required. If another user does something that now means that either completes the activity and you don't have to do it, we'll now see that resolved by another user instead of not required as the status of that activity. So that's working great. We're happy with that. I am now at the process manager review. Notice that the process manager has some different results for the first time. They don't really have an approval result. They just have to acknowledge that they have reviewed the request and it all looks fine to them. They do have a resubmit. What they do not have is the ability to deny the request. That result doesn't exist for them. So they have a little special set of unique results on their activities. They can review it or they can ask for a resubmission, but they cannot deny it. We will say, I have reviewed it, and I will hit reviewed, and that will end our test for that. So we know that works. Now, all the way through this, by the way, I've still been receiving well, this is the last one. This is my submitter notification. So I'm clearly receiving that one. I think I wanted to go here to see my process manager review task. I'm getting this same notification every time a task runs up. So just trust me, I can see them popping up as I look over to my left at my screen that's running Outlook. So we're happy. That looks like that worked fine. Let's try a resubmission. And I have not tested this yet, so I don't know if it works either. But let's try an accounting one this time, and let's go with a purchase request. And my supervisor, again, is going to be me. Process manager, obviously me. I don't care about the details. I am going to add an ad hoc approver. Let's see, who shall I choose as ad hoc approver? Let's choose me. And now we'll go to our routing slip and we'll submit the form. And there we go. This is PR number 002. So you can tell I have done some testing and everything looks great there. Supervisor approve. And let's be sure it takes me into accounting. Yes, I am now running the AP approval activity. So this is my accounts payable person. So I know that that part is working great. Fine. Now I am free in one of my 3 AP or accounting activities that I created to resubmit this. I'm just going to go ahead and ask for a resubmission. Let's hit the button and see what happens. Fingers crossed. And it has taken me back to supervisor approval, not to initiator resubmittal. And a supervisor hits. Okay, so when supervisor, it took me to initiator resubmittal. And That's what I wanted. So when I did AP approval, it took me back to supervisor. I may need to review what's going on there. So let's hit revise and we're good there. So we'll approve it. This should be supervisor approval again. Yes, we are. So we're going to approve there and we'll go into AP approval again. Let's hit resubmit one more time. And we are back at supervisor approval. So I don't like what's happening there. So I'm just going to go ahead and deny this request. Let's see if denying the request kills it. We'll hit deny and it's gone. And so I should not have any active timelines running. I don't. So, well, denial works. But now we're going to have to look at our process timeline and see what is going on with that initiator resubmittal activity. So in my approval loop, for my looping, I'm going to jump back to the top of the loop when any child activity result equals resubmit. Great. That's what I want. So let's look at initiator resubmittal. When do I need this activity? If the activity result of the approval loop is resubmit. I think I'm going to need a more expansive setup on this to make this work properly. Because I think what I'm doing is I'm skipping this activity whenever I do the resubmit. It's just coming in as not needed. I would normally go back to my completed timeline and look at my completed timeline instances. So let's go back and look at that and see if that gives me any clue about how to troubleshoot this. So we'll open up our purchase request process. We can see what happens here. We see that it went back to supervisor approval. And we can look at our administration timeline tab. And well, yeah, this is always difficult. Whenever everything happens all at the same time, it's difficult to see because I'm just going through and approving all of this stuff right now. So it's not like there are days between approvals and restarts. Everything is happening within a couple of minutes. So unfortunately, the scale on here, what if we go to minutes? Does that give me, yeah, okay. That gives me at least some indication. So I've got my initiator resubmittal, which came in for that one. There were two here. Um, completed, revised, completed, revised, completed, revised. So that's only really showing me the ones that actually ran across these minutes. It's a good thing that we can drill down to minutes on the process timeline to see what happened. All right, let's go back to the timeline itself. And let's go back to initiator resubmittal. Normally, when I only have one loop running, the parent loop always takes the activity result of the child activity that ran. I'm doing something a little more complicated here. I have several different parent activities. And so I'm actually, this parent activity is a child of the main loop. And then I have these individual activities that are children of the parent activity. So I need a little looser setup for whether I want my activity, my initiator resubmittal to run. So I don't think that this is going to be a good enough condition. Let's make it, let's just try a couple of loosey-goosey things here. Let's go with, instead of the activity result for uh, that particular activity, let's go with, I think I was looking for timelines. That's not what I want. Timeline activity. I'm looking for, I don't know if this is the right one or not. I want it, I want it for whether it's iterated. And I thought that there should be a iteration deal here. Um, Activity reached, child activity, parent activity iterated. That's the one I was looking for. Parent activity iterated. So let's see if it runs when parent activity is iterated. So let's see if that's good enough to skip on my first time through. We'll save our timeline. We want to skip on the first time through, but if we do a resubmit, we want to catch that resubmit. So I'm happy with that. So we're going to have to test again. So let's go into templates and let's test another resubmit. Resubmit with complex timelines is always something that you've got to worry about. We'll do facilities this time, and we'll go with a new facilities request. And again, we'll go with Dale. And once again, I'm going to add me as an ad hoc approver. Now, this is totally optional. If I don't assign anyone as an ad hoc approver, it'll just skip the activity because no users have been assigned. In which case, that activity I think would show up as not required rather than completed by another user. But let's go ahead, submit. It'll go through our supervisor approval. It should. There we go. It skipped my initiator resubmittal. It went straight to supervisor approval. Happy so far. Let's get into a sub parent activity. So now we are inside facilities. And so let's hit resubmit from here. And that gets us back to initiator resubmittal. I'm a happy, happy person now. So now I can revise my activity and send it back to supervisor approval. And then from supervisor approval, my facilities activity should start. We'll approve the first one, which is equipment issue. Now we'll go to furnishings approval. And just for giggles, we'll resubmit from there. And we're back to initiator resubmittal. All right, we're happy, happy, happy. And so I'll revise it and then we'll approve it here. And we go back to equipment issue where we will approve. Then we'll go to furnishings approval, which we will also approve. That should then take me to ad hoc approvals. I am going to deny it from ad hoc approvals. Probably not wise to give deny to your ad hoc approvers, but I've already done it, so we're going to live with it. I'm going to hit deny, and that should end my process, and we are good to go there. I should have no active timelines running. I, in fact, do not. All of my timelines have been completed. We're good to go. We're happy with our approval process. Look, obviously, I would test this a lot more if this was a real application, but we just don't have time. So we're going to assume that our processing has, or our testing has gone swimmingly. And I now have a working and running template and timeline. At this point, I'm going to see what I need to do to make this all work in the real world. So at this point, this is where the magic is going to happen. We're going to go into our templates folder, and I'm also going to open, because I think I have some logs and stuff in here that I want to get rid of in my downloads folder. So we'll get rid of those so that I can simply export this template. So we have a template. It works. It works with our process timeline. Our testing, we've passed. Now we have to start looking at what a real world set of forms for this unified approval is going to look like. As I said just now, this is where the magic happens in unified approvals, because now I can begin developing unique forms for my processes without having to redo all of the configuration for the basic fields that I need, although we are going to do some of that. I have a details tab, which right now only has a single input field to allow me to throw in a quick narrative. That details tab is where I'm going to customize any new fields that I need. I'm going to add them on that tab. So whenever I create a new form, what I'm going to do is I am going to export my UAP form template, and we will save that in our downloads folder. There we go. There it is. It has been saved. And now I'm going to go into my forms folder, which is currently empty, and I'm going to import my real world form that I'm going to use. So we're going to go to import objects. We'll browse for my UAP form template, and we'll import it into this folder. It imports fine, which it should. Now we can customize this form. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to call this a generic form. We'll just call this a generic request. So we can use this form to make any of the quick requests that we want to make. I doubt that in the real world you would have a generic form, but we're going to create one because we're going to go ahead and reproduce, at least we're going to run through one time. We're just going to test this generic form so that we can demonstrate that it works exactly like the template does. In fact, we can be relatively assured that it will work exactly like the template did because my linkages to the unified approval process are still here in the form definition. I did not lose them, again, because the relative folder location for the unified approval process is the same both for my template and for this form here, which, even though it says UAP form template, is about to be generic request. In fact, let's go ahead and update that. Well, let's hit OK. And now it's called generic request. So I have my generic request form. This is the real deal. This is the form that I'm going to use for any generic request. And let's just run it real quick just to be sure that we have all of our stuff. Oh my goodness, my email inbox is just getting stuffed with all of these email notifications. I'm going to go ahead and delete it and hope that I didn't delete anything important that snuck in while I was getting snowed under with these email notifications. Got my approval form. Oh, this running activity and task instructions. I don't want to see that. And yet I am seeing it. That means on my template, what is this called? This is called task section. What are its field properties? Well, that's not what I wanted to see. I want to set my display options on this. Field is visible when, and I really only need it when I'm running in a timeline. So we're just going to set this real quick for timeline status equals active, because it only has context when I'm actively running in a timeline. And then we're going to set this to otherwise hidden. So the next time we import this, this will be set correctly. So I should have noticed that while I originally did my testing, but clearly that fell through the cracks and I did not notice that I was displaying that section with the task instructions and the running activity name before the form was even submitted. Unfortunately, That's where we are. I tell you what, um, we haven't actually done anything but renamed it generic request. We're just going to live with this error. I tell you what, well, it'll be fixed in the next one. We won't change this form. That's why testing is so important, by the way. As you can see, I missed something in testing. And if I've already built all, 5 or 10 forms off of that, I would have to go into each one of these forms and hide this section because it's showing up before the form has even been submitted. I'm in a new form instance. I should not be seeing that yet. I should only be seeing that in the context of a task when I have an active running process timeline. It's not relevant now. It won't be relevant after the timeline is concluded. So it needs to be hidden at all other times. On the next form we import, we'll take a look at it there. So let's see, what have I done? I haven't done human resources yet. So let's do a human resources thing. Let's do an employee onboarding deal. And we'll set that. We'll go to approvers. We'll add me as well. You know what? We know the ad hoc approvers works. We've already seen it. We see how it works when I have multiple approvers. So let's just go straight to the routing tab to make this faster. And we'll submit our form. I do need to make a change to the form itself. Well, well, we are going to have to do a little more configuration here because I forgot this bit up here at the top. That needs to be fixed as well. But we're running in our task. We're all happy. We can do a resubmit real quick, and it should take me back to initiator resubmittal, which it does. I've revised it, and that'll take me back to supervisor. I'm going to approve just to be sure it throws me into one of the HR tasks. Yep, I'm in HR rep approval. None of the other tasks are running, so I know that my configuration of my timeline is good. Now I'm simply going to deny it so that we are done with it. Great, we now have a generic request form. It works exactly like our template because I haven't made any changes to it. It's just generic. I guess if I was going to make a change to it, what I'd probably do, generic request form. So it would have that name that matches the name that I gave it. So in this case, I didn't do anything special. I just created a generic request form. I've renamed it generic request. It's exactly like the form that I imported. And if I had generic requests like this, I could be reasonably assured that this form works in the way that I want it to work. Since I've updated my form or my template and made changes to it, I'm going to delete that template. And now we're going to need to make a custom form. And now we're going to get into all of the little things that you have to think of when you have different types of requests flowing through the same process. So I'm going to export my template again. And assuming I don't have to make any changes to it anymore, I'm going to export it exactly in this format that I want. There we go. It has exported. And we will close here. We will go back to my forms folder, and I am going to import it again. And this one should be the updated one that will not show me the task information before I submit the form. Now the form is imported. Now I'm going to need to do something special. So let's call this purchase request. It's one thing to have a generic form where I can just choose all of the different types of requests that I want. But now I need a purchase request, and that's going to be pretty particular in what I need. I don't need, because it's a purchase request, I'm not going to need my user to select the accounting function or the purchase request process. I can just bake those into the form itself. And I can do it in a couple of different ways. Let me update this property here. So it is called the purchase request form. Let's go into the design view. Now, this form is only really relevant to one process. So I don't, as I said before, I don't need to specify the function or the process and have the user fill those out. It's going to be a purchase request form. I can just make that magic happen automatically. So I can just copy this stuff, Control X them out of the way, go down here into status fields, Control V them, and now these fields are going to be hidden. Now, I do need to ensure that I am setting this up correctly, because now that they're hidden and users aren't going to select the values, I need to place the values in here. Since this is a purchase request form, I'm even going to call it that at the top while we're here. Let's go back down here to my function. Let's just give it a default value. So we are going to set the value, and this is an accounting. And so now this is where I need to know what these codes are to make this all work. I know that accounting is AC, so I'm going to set the default value for this dropdown to AC. And I'm going to set the dropdown for this process. Same thing, default value. And again, I'm going to have to use a string because we're using these 2-letter codes. I'm pretty sure that PR is the default value for purchase request. I'm not completely sure. I should probably check that. We'll do that in a second. So PR should, however, be my purchase request. Now, when the form opens, it's automatically just going to set the value of the function and the process field. Do I need to have these labels now and add the overhead for those labels? Because now I'm down in the status fields and it's going to be hidden. No, not really. I don't need to have those because really the only purpose for a label field is for accessibility. So I don't need them. I'm not going to mess with them. This form is so small, I don't care about the overhead on it much. So I'm going to leave them in there. But honestly, you would just take these labels out because labels are accessibility tools. They are not, by the way, free text fields that you can just use to throw text on the form, even though I know some of you use them in that way. These are accessibility controls. If I'm going to hide these controls and no user's ever going to see them, technically I don't need the labels because your end user is not going to see anything in this section anyway, because when you hide an object like a section, the HTML for that section and all the form controls that exist, they don't get served to the end user. They just don't appear anywhere on the form. So since they don't exist on the form from the user's perspective, it's not that they're hidden on the form. We don't serve the HTML that represents this section or its constituent controls at all. Now, those fields do exist, and the server knows they exist. And if we have to set values for those fields or change values or whatever, that all happens on the server anyway. So the server will take care of that. But we don't need labels in hidden fields at all. Now, if at any point in time the user will see this field, then obviously it should have a label. But for my purchase request, I think I'm set up fine for my purchase request so far. Now, because it's a purchase request, it does affect how the process timeline works. Now, the process timeline for unified approvals can be complex. Let's save and close our form for our purchase request, and let's go look at our process timeline because I've made some changes to it. I'm going to have to make a couple of more here as I develop my form. But for now, let's take a look at the accounting section of the form. And this is where we're going to make all of our changes on the form. And this is where we're going to do our fancy stuff. I'm probably going to have fancy stuff that I need to do for all of these different types of activities, whether it's IT or facilities or whatever, but we'll just work in accounting today. If we look at my AP approval and AR approval, I have a needed when condition on these. I should probably open up the condition builder to make this marginally easy for you to read. Again, using the form field system variable. Remember, I'm using multiple forms with this process timeline. So anytime I need to evaluate a form field, I have to use the system variable for that form field. The field, obviously exists on the form, so that's great. The process timeline knows the context of the form field system variable because the form, whichever form it is that I submit, gets attached to the process timeline. So I can use these system variables extensively as we've seen previously to make all of the magic happen. So in this case, I need the accounts payable people to look at purchase requests and purchase orders. Those are the two things that accounts payable need to look at. So if my request type is either PR or PO, then accounts payable needs to look at those. That implies that for accounts receivable, they don't need to look at those. Now, in this case, I have just set up VP, which is vendor payment, I believe, as an accounts receivable. Vendor payment is probably a bad name. But I'm not an accountant, which as the holder of an MBA, I probably shouldn't say I don't know much about that accountant stuff, because if I do, that means that 6 years of university education were worthless. However, I call it vendor payment, and we're going to assume that vendor payment means that the vendor is paying me, so that is an accounts receivable function. So only my accounts receivable will see the vendor payment function. Yes, I have other types of accounting activities. I think I have 5 of them. I should probably include all 5 here, but I just couldn't be bothered to do all 5. I'm here to get concepts across, not to actually build a working application. So we're fine. If it is a vendor payment, it should go to accounts receivable. If it's a purchase order or a purchase request, it should go to accounts payable. Obviously, we'd want to test this with our purchase request form to be sure that it works the way that we want it to work. So let's go back to our forms. I'm not going to save anything because I don't think I made any configuration changes. Don't worry. We're going to come back and make some here in a minute. We're going to take my purchase request form and we're going to run it. So we're going to do a quick run. Happily, I'm not going to do anything. I don't need to worry about the function or the process that's already set up. I don't have to worry about any of the other stuff because I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to submit the form. I expect to go to supervisor approval. And if the supervisor approves, I expect it to go to AP approval. It does, in fact, go to AP approval. If AP approves, then what I would expect to happen is for it to go to, well, I don't want this to happen, but we haven't gotten there yet. It did skip AR, which is what I wanted it to do. I forgot that I put this in this morning, finance director approval. It's going to run all the time. We're going to set it up so that it doesn't, but this is the next activity. Based on the configuration I've created, it's working fine. I don't have any ad hoc approvers, so it should skip that. It should go straight to, okay, we're done. I'm not sure why we're done. I am sure why we are done. My form is incorrectly configured. Let's take a look at the process timeline that just ran and learn why we skipped our process manager. I already know why we skipped our process manager, but let's pretend that I don't. And let's go to our administration timeline view, and ad hoc approvals. Wait a second. This is a completed timeline. This is an active timeline. Okay, which one is this? It went to finance director. Okay, it errored out because I didn't put in a user. Okay, I didn't have a user, and it ended without a result. I need to, I probably should have checked this out previously. I probably should have got this in my testing. I didn't add an ad hoc approver. And so it doesn't know how to end this process timeline. So it's still running. And unfortunately, it's going to run until I get this error fixed. I was just about to cancel it, but I don't think I am. I think we're going to keep this active timeline running. Testing is tedious, but necessary. So we're going to have to go to ad hoc approvals, and we're going to have to do something that I forgot to do. I have all of these results. None of them are set as the default result. So my activity runs, it's got no users, so it wants to end, but it doesn't know how to end because I didn't specify any users and there's no result specified. So I'm just going to set a default result of approve. I'm not sure in the real world I would handle it this way. I think what I might do is create a new result button that says not needed. In fact, let's go ahead and try that. Let me add a result. And I'm going to add this activity result here of not needed. Now, I don't want this result to show. I don't want this result button to show. So I might show this result button when I'm just going to set I'm just never going to show it. So we're just going to set a value, and we'll set for A equals B. Now, I know that will never be true. So we're happy with that. I don't really care about any of the other options, but I do care that it is the default result. I want to set it as not needed. So let me hit close here. Let me see. Let me hit also OK here. So now that I have added a default result of not needed, let's go back to my active timeline. Let's open it up. Let's go to the timeline administration view, which conveniently tells me where things have gone horribly, horribly wrong. The activity's in an error state because too many results met the condition and there was no default setting. Now there is a default setting. I'm going to restart this activity. Ad hoc approvals is running. Let's refresh. And now we're in process manager review. Now, this I expected to error out because I forgot to do something on the form. This is where I thought we were going to go with the error. I was not expecting the error in ad hoc approvals, which, by the way, is now the result is not needed. That's the result that I configured as the default result. For the process manager review, I should never not have a process manager. That should always exist. Unfortunately, it didn't exist in this particular instance because I have a unique form that does a purchase request that's running here. So when I did my purchase request form, so we're going to go ahead and leave this. We're going to go back to our purchase request form. What I forgot to do is this. In the real world, or on a form where I keep saying in the real world, that's not what I mean. In a process where I actually, as a user, manually change the process field, it sets the value of my process manager. This is another control that I don't need to be viewed by end users. Okay, come on, please let me highlight the whole thing. There we go. X. I don't technically need that line break there, but I do need my process manager down here. Since I'm not setting the process manually, there's no event that will fire. And the event that's supposed to fire is supposed to call the business rule to find out who my process manager is. Well, that's not happening now because nobody's changing this. This event's never going to fire. So I forgot to bring my process manager out of the visible area of the form where users are going to work. And I need to go back and give that a default value as well. And I don't want to set that as current user. I want to go to value user, and then I'm just going to pick because because this is one type of process. I don't really need to call that business rule to return whoever the manager is for this process. I'm building a form that only works for the purchase request. So I can just pick the user who is the manager of the purchase request. As it happens, it's me. So I can set the default value as Dale Franks on this form. Sadly, on my form instance, I can't do that because the default value for those fields have already been set. Default values get set when the form is first opened the very first time. So I can't fix my messed up process by making that change there. So even though I can make the change so that for future submissions, I know who the process manager is, I can't fix the one that's currently running simply by making a change to my form. So I'm going to have to cheat. I'm going to go to my purchase request form. And unfortunately, I don't want to change my form to make that field visible because that would require changing or it would require changing the definition. And I've already thrown it in the invisible portion. I don't want to have to go back and do that, but I am going to have to fix this problem on the form because it's expecting a specific user. So we're going to open up the form properties for that user. And process manager is blank. So, and this is a great little troubleshooting thing that you can also do. I am going to turn debug mode on. And I'm going to refresh my form there and throw it in debug mode because debug mode enables me to edit. Now, what I would need to do in normal circumstances is let's just go ahead and do it. Let me show you what I would do in this situation. I need a user who is the process manager. This is blank. I need that user's UID. I'm probably not going to know that. Now, in this particular case, I do know that because my OID is right here. I can actually just edit this form field. I didn't need to edit that form field. What I need to do is copy. Well, I didn't need to copy OID, did I? I needed to copy my UID, which is right there. Copy, 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 copy. We'll cancel that. We'll go back up here to Process Manager. We'll edit that, and we will drop that OID right there into that field. And I should have my OID, and it does. It doesn't say Dale Franks. That's fine. We'll deal with that later. Actually, I wonder, what if I did do that? Sometimes Process Director will be really cool about knowing what to do on user pickers when you use the user ID or the name, but it apparently isn't being cool now, man. So we're just going to have to set the OID and we'll update that and everything should work fine from this point. Let's get out of there. Let's go back to, I don't know why I keep clicking that link. That's not well, that's not what I wanted. I wanted the form instance. Purchase request form instance, click properties. That's what I wanted. Okay, it still has my OID there, but that's fine. It knows what the data item is. So this should work. Normally, what I would need to do, I was lucky because I'm the only user who's assigned to anything. So my OID is everywhere here. Normally, what I would need to do in a case like this is I would need to go into user administration. And then I would need to find the user. So in this case, let's just pull Diana. And then I need to scroll all the way to the bottom to this thing here that says object ID. That is Diana's UID. That's really how she is known in this system. That's how tasks get assigned. They get assigned by your user object ID, what we call the user ID or the user UID. So this is Diana's unique identity in the system. So normally what I'd have to go if I wanted to assign something this way is that I have to go and grab this GUID out of their user account. Then I could go back to their form instance and I could do the stuff that I needed to do. Now, in my case, I have my purchase request form and I'm in debug mode. I don't want to be in debug mode. I want to be out of debug mode. So the zoom menu keeps hiding what I want to see. I don't actually want to see anything here. I don't even want that tab open. So let's kill that. Let's go here and let's turn debug mode back off so that we get back to our normal. There we go. And I've got my purchase request form. Let's go back to my active timeline. Let's go back to my unified approval process, back to the timeline view, and let's go to our process manager review, restart this activity. There we go, process manager review. Let's refresh it to be sure that we're out of an error state. We are. Process manager review is running because now I am set as the process manager. In the future, when I create a new version of this form or a new instance of this form, because I'm using me as the default value, it will automatically place me into the process manager review step. That's exactly where I want to be. I know that this is now working properly. I should now be able to, in the future, elide past these two issues when I submit this form. I'm just going to go ahead and cancel this timeline because this test was successful. I successfully failed the task, but ultimately I made all of my fixes. Now I have a problem with one of my activities. What time is it? It's 11:24. Okay. I can, in fact, solve this problem in the time we have left. For a purchase request, I want to do something special. Now, I just added this in this morning. I am flying without a net here, people. I don't know how this is going to work, and I don't precisely know how I'm going to solve this problem. So we're going to do some real-time investigation to figure out how to solve a particular problem. Now, in my approval process, I have this finance director approval activity. I don't want everything to go to the finance director, just as I have needed when conditions on my AP approval and AR approval, depending on whether I am paying money out or somebody is paying me. I only want finance director approval whenever something is really, really big. So far, we haven't created any custom fields on our form. Now we're going to. And we have a problem in that we have to use system variables to make everything work. So I'm going to have this field here that needs to exist for every process, but only needs to actually run and be evaluated if it is an accounting process. And I only want this to run if my amount is more than, I don't know, let's say $10,000. So if it's more than $10,000, it's got to go to finance director approval. If it is an accounts payable activity. So if it's a PR or a PO, in other words, if I'm spending money, my finance director has to approve it if it's over $10,000. I don't care about an AR process. Trust me, my accounting manager or my finance director will automatically approve any time anybody wants to give us more than $10,000. There's not even a question that he will say, no, I don't want your filthy, filthy money. He will take the 10,000 plus dollars. So this only works if I'm in an AR or in an AP type of process and it's more than $10,000. Normally, in a process that has accounting stuff, I'm going to have some custom fields. Now, I'm not going to build a whole bunch of custom fields here on my details tab, but as I'm sure that you are normally aware, what would generally happen on the details tab of a purchase request is I would need to have an array that contained line items for every item I'm going to purchase, the number of items I'm purchasing, their unit price, and the subtotal for each line item. Ultimately, that would all get racked up into a grand total. I'm not going to throw all of that stuff on here because it's largely unnecessary. I need to demonstrate, or I'd like to demonstrate one thing. We'll see whether I can demonstrate it this week or whether we'll have to come back to it next week. But I'm going to try to fix this live. So, as I said, flying without a net. This is something I came up with that I thought of this morning. And so now we're just going to try it out live. So I need a field here for a total amount. So I'm going to add a control, and just to make it accessible, I'm going to use a label. I'm going to call it total label, and I'm going to call it total amount for the text. And I am going to have an associated control called total amount. Now I'm going to copy that control ID. And normally I would not do this with an input field. Just to make things quick and dirty, I'm going to use an input field. In most cases, this would actually be a sum field that you would use in Process Director. The nice thing about a sum field is, like the calculation field, its default value is currency. And so everything will be formatted as currency, and it'll be fine. I'm going to do a quick and dirty thing, just throwing in a text box, which I'm going to call, which I have to call, total amount, since that's what my label is pointing to for accessibility reasons. Normally I'd go into the field properties, I'd set its data type and all that stuff. Not going to do that. We're just going to throw some numbers into it. So I have my total amount field. If it's more than $10,000, I got to run that. I got to run that process, or that process step for finance director approval. So now I've got a custom field that I need. Now this custom field only exists on this form. In the real world, that wouldn't be true. In the real world, I'd want a total amount for my AR process, for all of my AP and AR processes. In fact, for most of my accounting processes, I'm going to need a total amount. Whether I'm doing a travel voucher or whatever it is, it's probably going to have a total amount field. Am I going to have a total amount field for HR processes? Actually, I might. Let's say I break something that I got to pay for. Then is that an HR thing? Probably not. That's probably an accounting thing too. I broke a piece of equipment. I dropped my computer. Now I got to pay for it. That's probably accounting is probably going to handle that. Facilities, am I going to have a total amount? No. Can't think of anything in IT where I have to worry about total amount. Anything with total amount is going to be accounting. So my accounting forms are probably going to have a total amount field on them. None of my other forms are. Now remember, I'm using a single timeline to do all of my approvals. So it's going to be kind of important for us to understand how we can have custom fields that are only going to have context with certain forms. Some forms are not going to contain these fields at all. So now we got to test to see how the behavior is going to work with these custom fields. On the accounting side, it's going to be fine, I think. We're going to save our form where we now have a total amount field that we are going to have to fill out to make this work. And we'll hit OK here. Now we need to go back to our unified approval process. And we're going to have to go into our finance director approval. And we're going to have to create a condition set to make this work. So our first condition, well, we actually have two conditions. We're going to have a set of and conditions. We're going to have two sets of and conditions in one big overarching or condition set. Because first of all, I got to look at the process. And I forgot what the two processes were. So hold on. Let me go grab my other. What are my three codes that I need? PR, PO, lucky, and I think this one was VP. Okay, I don't care about VP. All I care about is PR and PO. So back to finance director approval. Back to its needed when. When do I need it? Well, I need it if process, and again, I got to do everything by system variable. If process equals, and once again, we have to go to string. So if it's a purchase request, so if process is PR, and this is where my total amount field comes in. So once again, we're going to have to use the system variable. Total amount. Good thing I saved that. Total amount is greater than, and we're going to do string here, but that should work fine for us because process director will convert strings to numbers to do the appropriate comparison. So again, if my amount is more than $10,000 and it's a purchase request, or, and once again, we'll have to set this up for POs. So if my process equals PO, we'll go to string and PO, and the total amount is once again greater than $10,000. So there we go. We have our two, well, we have our rather complex set of OR conditions. It's got to be a PR greater than 10,000 or a PO greater than 10,000. If it's not, if neither of those things are true, then this activity should never run. It's the total amount field, and it'll work here for these for these accounting processes. But we are going to have to check to see what happens with our process timeline if we use these custom fields like this. Hopefully, it won't do anything, but I want to be sure. So we're going to have to retest this. So once again, we're going to go here and do a purchase request form and run it. My supervisor is me. Now the details are important here because now I do need 10,001. That's enough. We'll submit our form. We're in supervisor approval. Great. Let's actually go over here to our routing slip. Well, supervisor approval, good. We'll approve. This should now take us to AP approval. Great. We will approve, and that should take us to our director approval. We'll hit approve there. And it does go to finance director. We're happy campers so far. We're going to approve there. And this should take me past the ad hoc reviewers because I didn't set one. It takes me to process manager review, which we again need to test. It's working fine. I will say reviewed, and that worked great. Happy. Now we have to do it again because this testing works. It's super fun. Again, we'll go to Dale, and we have to go to details. And now we're just going to be $4,000, and we'll submit our purchase request. And let's go back to our routing tab so we can see that supervisor approval. Yes. Should now go to AP approval. It does. Yes. We should hit approve. It should now skip directly to process manager approval. It does. Our finance director did not have to get involved because this was less than a $10,000 purchase. So I have now reviewed it as the process manager, and my process is over and it ran successfully. Now, let's run a generic request that does not have a total amount field on it. And this time, we'll pick facilities. Now, facilities should work fine. I'm going to go with new facilities request. You know what? Let's not do that. Let's go back to accounting. And let's call it a purchase request. I'm expecting a failure, by the way. And we'll set my user as me, or my supervisor as me. Process manager is already set as me. Don't have a total amount. I should, but I don't. So let's go to the routing and let's see what happens. We're going to hit submit. And so far, we're going to be blissfully happy, I think. Supervisor approval, that's good. We'll approve. We'll now go to AP approval, which will be fine. That's good. We'll approve that. And now it went straight to process manager review. I was not sure whether not having the system variable would blow this thing up or not. In fact, let's check our running process timeline. Let me move this out of the way. Let's check our active timeline. We should only have one running. There we go. Thank you. Finally, we'll run there. Okay, everything looks fine on the status tab. If we go to administration timeline, let's take a look at what happened with director approval. The activity status came in as not required. So, and I wondered how this would work. And I was thinking about ways that I would fix this when it ultimately failed. It didn't fail, which frankly, I find equally disappointing and a relief. I thought there was a 50-50 chance, and I didn't know because I just thought of it this morning and I hadn't tested it, so I decided to do it live. I didn't know what would happen when I submitted a form with an accounting request to evaluate a form field system variable for a form field that didn't exist. What it did is it returned nothing, which I thought was partially likely. I also thought it might be equally likely that it would say there is no total amount field. And if there's no total amount field, I don't know what to do and would have thrown my activity into an error state. It did not, in fact, throw my activity into an error state. What happened was, well, it didn't do anything. It took one look at this. It could not resolve what the total amount was. And because it couldn't resolve total amount, it just said, this like my old Dutch police supervisor used to say, it cannot be done on this moment. That's what process director did. It looked at that total field and said, it cannot be done on this moment. And it just automatically skipped it. Great. That makes my life a lot easier because now I don't have to worry about handling the error that might have come up if it errored out because it could not evaluate that system variable for a form field that does not exist on this form instance. In this case, it just ignored it, said, okay, that form field doesn't exist. The value is nothing. Therefore, I must not require my approval for finance director. So the activity status, as you can see here, well, maybe you can't, but it says not required. So it just skipped the step. Well, that's great. That just made my life a little bit easier because that's one potential error that I don't have to worry about handling. That also means that rather than having a standard thing that I have to think about if I'm going to throw a custom field on one form that doesn't exist on all the other forms, and I'm going to make an issue of it, then I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about what the standard fix is for that problem because process director being unable to evaluate that field, it will return no value. Process director just takes that as no value and moves on. Well, great. That's better than what I feared would happen. So now the world opens up to me in bright new vistas because now on all of my forms, I can just import my, I might as well just go ahead and review that and get rid of it. Now, all of these forms, I can go back in and customize as I need to for each of the different types of requests. Now, remember earlier I said, you're never going to have probably a generic form like this that is going to give me access to all of my functions and all of my processes. Now, you might, if you have several processes that are similar enough that they might share the same form, then maybe you could just set the function to a specific value and let the user choose the process. So, for example, for a finance form, I might not have a purchase request form. Now, for the purchase request form, I customized it so that it is nothing but a purchase request form. However, I probably went a little too far. What I probably don't need is the function, because I can make this a generalized accounting form. Now, I can hide the function field, but what I'd probably have to do is take the process and the process manager and throw them up here in the top section where they originally were. And then I could make this an accounting services form. In fact, let's do that. We'll go back to forms. There's no reason to pretend. I'll just re-import this again. That's the beauty of this system. I can just import this object again, and I can hit browse, grab the UAP form template, hit OK, close, open up my UAP form template, change the name to accounting services form. Let me update that. And we'll go into the design view. And for an accounting services form, the fields on that form are probably going to be very similar. I'm probably going to need an array that has a list of line items and their costs and their amounts. Travel will be different because I'm probably going to need, mileage and distances. So that form is probably going to be a little bit different. I may need a unique travel form, but my purchase order and purchase request and my payment forms are all going to have all of these same similar fields. So rather than making a unique form for all of my accounting stuff, I might just have a single accounting services form. And it's going to have my array with all of my line items, and it's going to have my total amount field and all those other fields that I need. What I don't need then is the function field to show up for the user. I just want the user to be able to check the accounting function that they want to perform. Okay, well, I can do that pretty easily. I can just go ahead and delete my function from up here. Delete, and go down here to our status field, and we'll set our function there. And once again, I'm going to check the function field or select the function field, and I'm going to go back in and set that default value. And that default value for this field is going to be AC for accounting. And now I've got an accounting services form. Now, obviously, I would go down here to the details tab and I would add the array that I need and my sum field for the total amount and all of that other stuff, because pretty much all of my accounting fields are going to need that. Like I said, travel services might need some other special fields so that I have locations and destinations. So it might need to be its own form, but I can have this general accounting services form, or here's something else I can do. I can throw the travel fields onto this form. It's a tabbed form. I can throw new tabs on here anytime that I want. So if I want a tab instead of details, one that says, you know, financial or, AP/AR. And then I just throw in another tab that I call travel. I can still have an accounting services form, and I can have all of the fields that I require on both of those forms on a single form. I just have them on different tabs. I can customize this easily to throw the fields on that I need. But if I have this single accounting services form, I set my function down here to AC as its default result. All the user has to do then is pick the accounting function that they want to use for this form. So at this point, I now have an accounting services form. We'll pretend I threw on those extra fields and those extra tabs. Great. So I already know that it's an accounting form because I already set the hidden functions drop down. And because that's set to accounting, all I will see are accounting processes whenever I open up the processes. So my disbursement request, expense report, purchase order, purchase request, travel request, vendor payment, it's all there. It all works. If it's a vendor payment, then it's a vendor payment. I didn't put the total amount field on this form. Oh, that's fine. It just won't run. Um, so I have a vendor payment. I don't have an amount, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Dale is the supervisor. So what I would expect to see here when I submit this form with this particular configuration is that it's going to go to supervisor approval, as they all do. And I'm going to approve. And then it should just go straight to AR approval, which in point of fact, it does. And so it's, I don't know why it's a disbursement request. Boy, I really messed up on naming stuff, didn't I? But it's fine. It goes to AR approval. AR is going to approve. There are no ad hoc approvers. There is no total value field. So it's not going to go to the finance director. It's going to go straight to process manager review. There's no ad hoc reviewers. I don't know if I said that or not, but there we go. We're fine. I reviewed it. My process is over. And my vendor payment request VP0002 is now done. And I can do this all day. All I have to do is import my template, rename it, put in whatever custom fields that I need, as long as I have a couple of things that are set in stone that we can see on this generic request form. The only four things that really have to be the same on all these forms that are required is the function, the process. Well, three things. Well, supervisor is required, but we're going to have the user pick that. But all of the automated stuff, the three things that I care about to make this automation work are my process manager, my function, or my process. Whether I let the users pick them or whether I throw them all down here in the status fields and I just create unique forms for each process, it doesn't really matter. I can have more or less every request on my system go through a single process timeline. It's a bit tedious to set up. Obviously, my timeline is going to be complex. Now, I know for some of you who look at this and you have relatively simple processes and you say, okay, well, that seems real complicated. This is nothing. We have process timelines that have, well, a lot of activities. Um, I'm not sure exactly how complex it is, but it is 11:53, so we are running out of time. But let me see if I can pull a quick, oh, let's log in as BPL support. Let's go to the content list here. Look in this default partition. Now, basically, this is a similar setup, although this is live. You know what I probably should have done is I probably should have gone to Approvia. Well, let me do that in a new tab. We'll take a look at two different things, although I think they use the same timeline. I think Approvia uses the PubPro 3 timeline. So let's just look at that. Final import processes, config data. I got to remember where this stuff is. I have the new content list. I can cheat. I think I can cheat. That's the publication planning. process. Send export file. Well, let me look for just timelines. That's publication planning, update, admin changes. Files between timeline. I mean, there's lots of timelines on here, but I'm trying to find the main one. No, that's definitely not it. I was trying to show it to you. This is not a system that I work on, so I'm just sort of trying to find stuff. I probably should have looked at it sooner. There's a main process on here, and well, there's a lot of timelines because there's a lot built into this, way more than what you've seen me build. I'm trying to find what the default timeline was. It's not going to be in test or troubleshooting, user management. Well, I don't know where the timeline is. Trust me, it's probably more complex than anything that you've done on your site. Is this it? Okay, this is the publication review portion of a product that we call PubPro. That it's basically a life sciences product, so most of you would never use it, but I think Appruvia uses the same timeline. And we go through all of the same kind of things so that any sort of now this just happens to be specific to document approvals. So it's got its own moving parts to it, but essentially this is the Appruvia system as well, where we take the documents, we do a lot of conversion to PDF and stuff like that. But this is the process timeline for all of the different types of reviews that might have to be done in this particular system and how those reviewers are chosen. In this system, there's a whole user alignment things that get set up so that users just get automatically assigned based on alignments. That's way more complex than what we can do. But the fact is, we can do really far more complex timelines than the one that I created for this process is available. So these timelines can actually get quite long, quite complicated, and yet it doesn't matter because really anytime that you run a request, you're only going to go through part of the process timeline. And with that, I got to shut up. It's 3 minutes to 12. So next week, what we are going to do is take a look at that email template. And we're going to have to build something way more complex than what I've built here because we have many different types of processes. We need to show different information to different users at different times. So the creation of the email template is its own thing. Will it take me a full 2 hours next week? I don't know, maybe not. So next week may be a shorter one, but we're certainly not going to get into it this week. So for now, we're going to have to say goodbye. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. So long.